to melt, or not melt, to freeze photons, right? We do that up in the NASA's area, and what they do is they're using it like the like refrigerants, and they'll have a bunch of it volatilize off in order to cool off a lot of the molecular movement, or just trap the photons or the energy molecules that just inherently weren't moving so fast when they just released it. And so then they just get the freedom to just use a subset of that, whatever inherent clump stuck to it. And now they have a rotating ensemble. And so now what they end up doing is they use laser beams. And when they start speeding up this ensemble, then the Cooper pair of cool off ends up bringing more nodules, because the tightening effect of the accelerants or accelerations, and the transmission of energy in interference patterns within that strata of, almost like a space module in free fall, uh, ends up being the BEC nesting kind of apparatus. And so I don't get it, because like, we play over here, and so in the winters we put these clumps together, and it was awesome, because if you have a processor on the surface of just a metal, an ingot, then within that metal, that strata, that spherical system, you launch with the entire surface of it being a uniform processor, a universal processor, either an MX2 cluster set that's built up in additional layers like anodized aluminum, or some other composition. That's your decision. And by storing energy in a spherical assembly using the center of the ingot, or wherever you need to place the center for the energy that you're trying to slow down, you create a density node, a cold nodule, a pocket, just like a Michelson interferometer of phase locked atomics, where you start, slowing down that nodule of hydraulical forces, cross computed inside that nest of pressure. And you luckily have a lot of electrons, potentially to use. And so it's the same application. And so what you can do is, when you're deriving a map of the planet of of Earth, and you're using your scalar coordinates to nest that into your logical landscape in this ingot, because you'd want to just do a spherical reflection or refraction, however you want to call it, off of the universal processing matrix on the surface, which could just be the application of the uniform processor onto a material object instead of a person. Well, in this case, this stores what the Earth is in energy and motion, and it replicates it in a form factor of temporal, where you can nest a Snellian foci. I'd recommend that one, because then your resonance frequencies seem to match in I don't know, maybe then it's easier to tune the external instrument to a proper, I don't know if it's a reflection or what, but it would be an interesting one to see what that does. Yeah, that kind of maybe by trying to lock the quantum, or what do they call it, the frame dragging effect. Is that Kepler, or no, Kep's term right there? I think so. Where frame dragging is like the very first surface of a spherical change of velocity, and so that would be the what I was calling the zipper moment of a change of field, where you have either, you could consider it maybe a multiplex effect, where then you devise that field however you need to with OFDM, where you then have a control avenue of averaging, using your checksum and figuring out, okay, well, this is a communication because it deviates from our nested map, our scalar model of the planet. And so you have the rudder comparisons of scalars. And so if you have two of those and they're cross-checking because you're using foci and you're starting to use your spherical gear sets and you're thinking about the radius of the system and you're setting your track just right, with the freaking OG sound checking mechanism of maybe a beam on the surface to see what the top of your house looks like. I don't know how that works. You tell me. And that kind of a locking effect, or maybe a communications channel, where a small scalar effect would be transmitted through the system with a temporal delay. I think that ends up working in multi-dimensional geosynchronicity, because you're thinking of the mass moments all leaping at the same time, but when you have a BEC, there's this reference anchor where they no longer leap. It's just one inspirational. They don't leap. That's why they're a BEC. And so then, by having that kind of a truing rudder effect throughout that strata, then it's an ABEC, because you're taking one phase lock more than BEC was doing, where you've now atmosphered it, and so then it becomes where you have where that would have been a monochroma representation of the model. The ABEC is how you can cross-induce the color spectroscopy of both general and special relativity inside that little nested mirror reflection, making an actual scalar replica, a microverse of scalar quality. And because it's so spherically linked, I think that it has zero impact on both points when it's at that level of accuracy. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I have no idea. Just think about it, because I think going from mono to something in the future is a little bit better, with this kind of a derivation towards what healthcare could be doing at just, TSA checkpoints, where you're getting healed by walking through the station instead of